Hi, it's Rachel Maldonado. Belief in the human spirit and desire to connect is the reason that I want to tell your story and mine. And I am with Christy Larson, who is a very successful modern woman. So tell me about this.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you for having me. So I am the founder and CEO for a 501c3 foundation. I also own a couple of e-commerce small businesses. So that's predominantly what I spend a lot of my time on. And of course, I have my 3-year-old son, so I'm a single mother as well.
Wow. So you're an entrepreneur and a businesswoman. You're very successful. And, I really want to know how it is to be a modern woman. And, how do you balance mom, the business, and dating?
Well, it's actually not too difficult. I mean, at times it can be overwhelming, but really it's about time management and priorities, So of course, while I want to meet the right person that's right for me and for my son, I also make sure that, you don't take a sip from everyone's cup, right? So it's about just being very picky and who you share your time with. So because time is the most valuable, most expensive thing that we can offer someone. So I'm very, very picky with who I spend my time with. And I have certain questions that I will ask individuals prior to even agreeing to go on a first date. So I have those certain stipulations, and it's very easy to weed out those that I feel are just not right for me, right? And I expect or would expect anyone to take that same approach. So proper time management, being a little greedy, a little selfish with my time, it's important.
I love that you have a vetting process. And I have a stories podcast episode on predatory women. And I'm also a therapist and a life coach. So I'm always telling my clients, because all my clients, they're, divorce or breakup, something. And I always say, hey, you got to vet. You got to vet that man or woman. So I love that you do that. And is it a little bit crazy town with the vetting? Because back in the day, there was no dating apps.
Right.
What's it like with the dating apps?
Okay, the dating apps are incredibly interesting. So for me, I find it a little overwhelming. So that is really kind of a last resort for me. I go a little more organic these days. So going out and meeting individuals at events or things like that. I love that approach. However, with the dating apps, for me, I get thousands of emails within my inbox, so it's like finding a needle in a haystack, for the right person. And then there's moments, I mean, for example, I'm of course matched with an individual, and some of these men are just very rude and disrespectful. I made a comment one time, he was military. I made a comment about, well, my flirting is probably terrible anyway. So I said, hey, soldier, and he was a Marine. So he was incredibly offended. And he really let me know how offended he was. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I was trying to, flirt, and obviously I'm terrible at it. So that was one thing. And needless to say, he did not like me after that. That small little thing, just really, it was very strange to me. So, but again, and for me, at running several businesses, raising my son, I do not have the time to go through all of these emails. And I know it sounds, I don't know, maybe a little conceited, or I don't know, take it how you will. So dating apps, it's crazy. Oh, and also it's like for a woman, you're throwing yourself into this lion's den of men. I mean, what is their innate quality is to hunt and conquer. And we're putting all of these women in one cave, if you will, and letting these men just come in, so it's crazy. Dating apps are insane. And I say, if you're brave enough, go ahead and do it. But I'm focused more organically meeting someone these days. It's safer.
That is so interesting because you get thousands of messages from men when you're on a dating app. And you're right. There's a huge safety component for women. You don't know who these people are. And then also with your flirting style, I thought that that was super cute. So I have a lieutenant colonel, a U.S. Marine, and a Green Beret as guests on my Stories podcast. Yeah, I should just check with some of my military friends, but I thought that was benign.
I said, I'm sorry, and that was still not it. He was completely offended. So don't call a Marine a soldier.
Well, because you and I we're laymen, we're not military, and like that's our I would do that too. Like that's my style. I'm trying to be cute. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. So okay, so you're doing the organic, and do you ever have any of those situations where the man is inappropriate?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, in the past, I'd like to, because I'm a very athletic female. I like to work out. I like to go to the gym. I love running outside. My son loves it too. So I thought, well, let me join a local run club. And I'll meet someone naturally, organically that way as well. That's probably better for me. So I went a few times, and I did meet a gentleman that I thought, well, he was good looking, and he was intelligent, very smart. And then eventually he did ask me out. And I kid you not, the second that I agreed to have dinner, mind you, this is probably the second or third time I had seen this gentleman for maybe an hour or two, right, on these run clubs, because there's a group of us that go. But the second I agreed to having dinner with him, he was very hands-on, reaching under the table, touching my legs, wrapping his legs around mine. And I felt so incredibly uncomfortable. I was very shocked. I wasn't expecting that. But I have to understand for myself, I'm a very vibrant woman. I have a good amount of sex appeal. So I do cause some sort of reaction in men. And this is not the first time that I've experienced something like this. So I'll take my responsibility at, being a little too hot to handle. But it was a very uncomfortable situation for me. Needless to say, I decided not to go back to run club again. It was just a very awkward situation for me. I felt that it was slightly disrespectful, and at this point it's all good, just moving on. You learn where your energy is, where your soul tribe of people are, so just a very strange situation to have to experience that. I don't know.
Yes.
Incredible.
And part of the modern and romance today is that a lot of individuals, either with other partners or they see it in the media, they just think that to go straight to sex is the go-to. It's sex on the first date, and it's the dick pic as the opener. So the romance, I don't see it so much, and it's fascinating because when you indicated you were interested in dinner and you accept the date, he went straight to sexual.
Yes. Yeah. It was very uncomfortable for me, and that's one of my prerequisites too. And I think that this is where I made the mistake, is because generally I would ask the prerequisite questions, but because we were in a large group setting, I didn't get to vet him. And this is probably why this happened. So I didn't get to ask, do you want to be a husband and a father? Do you want to wait till marriage to have sex? And these are all the questions, because I will wait till marriage to have sex. I don't, like I said, I don't sip from everyone's cup, so I feel like had I vetted this one, that situation would not have occurred. I stepped outside of my own process and procedures, and I will never do that again.
Yes. Well, there's that fine line in that a lot of women blame themselves for things that happen. And of course, you have to have interpersonal skills and emotional intelligence to read the room and to understand the other person. But I also think that there's a component where you are allowed to be sexy. You're allowed to wear what you want. This doesn't excuse men's bad behavior. So I think it's that fine line, and women are always trying to navigate that.
I agree 100%. Absolutely. And it's not that I was wearing anything particularly risque. I mean, we're in run club. We're wearing workout clothes.
Yes.
But I'm a good looking woman, and I'm a very fit woman. So clearly it was, and I think it has a lot to do with energy as well. I do express an unconditional support to other people, whether it's my friends or a romantic partner. So I just, I digress. It was just a crazy situation for us.
Yeah.
So.
And I always look at safety for men and women. For as a therapist, we always ask those safety questions. Every first client session we have, we go straight to safety. It's our number one prerogative. And did you ever find a situation where you're like, man, this really does not feel safe?
Oh, well, you know what? I can tell you, this actually brings up a conversation that you and I had spoken about before, where Jordan Peterson had mentioned men, very high level men on these dating apps that get a lot of attention. It eventually develop the psychopathy, right? And they have that shut off of emotion, probably because, well, they're having sex with a number of different women. So they almost have to shut off that emotion. If they have multiple partners at a time, which does eventually develop this psychopathy where maybe they give you this cold-hearted feeling, right? So there was an individual that I was very interested in dating, and honestly, he was incredible, just as far as his career and who he was as an individual person. But when it came down to dating, it was that very misleading, very cold-hearted, shut down. It was very difficult to communicate with him, incredibly difficult to bond with him, but he had so much attention on these dating apps, like Jordan Peterson had mentioned. So he gave off that psychopathic personality, and they kind of compare psychopathy to sociopaths as well. And I would almost want to deal with the sociopath because they have that outrage, and at least I know where I stand. Where this gentleman, I could never get much from him. And, unfortunately, I'm sure he has broken a number of hearts, but, because of my standards, I didn't allow that to happen with me.
Yes.
But you immediately identify that. And that is something very dangerous because they will drag you along for years. Okay. And that's what a lot of women really need to consider, creating these vetting questions, and stop going with the flow. Like, stop doing that because you are crushing your own soul. These men out here, and honestly, I speak for men because I'm a woman. So, I mean, you could flip the script, and I'm sure some men have the same experiences. But for a woman like me, who's very kind-hearted, unconditional, will love you to death, we have got to protect ourselves from these psychopathy individuals that go through this, and they will just take advantage of you. They will act like they want something from you, but give you absolutely nothing. That's what they do. So these men are incredibly dangerous. Like I said, I'll date a sociopath any day before I'll date a psychopath. I promise you, because at least I can see it and then beeline out. A psychopath's going to drag you for years. That's period.
I like that you are sharing your stories because you want to put it out into the world and help other women be alert to danger, to think about safety, because everybody goes for the fun stuff, but it is also all right to think about your mental health, to think about your physical safety. So I really appreciate that you just share, because it's going to help a lot of other women be like, oh man, that's something to think about.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really, really is. And honestly, we're just really scratching the surface of this particular topic, especially when you take a successful woman who wants to date and find her husband, because now you're stepping over that fine line. Or should she have a career, or should she be the stay-at-home mom and focusing on this? Well, I feel like that you can be the combination of the two. I don't like how we pigeonhole women and put them in a box. Like, why is it okay for the man to go out and he's gone 10 hours a day from the child, but when a woman wants to do that, it's a huge issue. Children need both the mother and the father to learn a balanced or to have a balanced life as they grow up, So luckily for me, I'm fortunate to have my own businesses where I can have my time with my son. And then he also has that fatherly influence equally the same time, so you're raising a balanced child, but I still can focus on my career, and I still have that time to do both. I think that women, we're created to do multitasking. We are created for that, so you can do both. and still be very successful. And like I said, it's just about time management and really prioritizing who you give your time to,
Yes.
honestly.
I really like that you point out that there are many different roles for women: businesswoman, mom, romance, and you don't cut off one part. You
Mhm.
say, hey, how do I get these parts to work together?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very well, it's easy to me now because I'm so used to it. And here's the thing, I would a part of me would love to stay at home and go to the gym, go running, have my glass of wine, watch my babies, but what's the long-term goal? Because that baby's going to grow up and he's going to go on, doing what he wants to do. And then where am I left? I need that long game idea. Well, and not only that, there's so much time in the day that when your baby's off doing something or what, you can do other things. You can do other things. That's why it cracks me up where, it's the baby's your sole life. Yes, it can be, but I would be incredibly bored if I'm not working on my son's legacy, building my companies and creating something for him to have a leg up on. You know what I mean? I don't want to just throw him in with nothing to start with, so I feel like that's my responsibility, to create this legacy while also raising him and teaching him responsibility, so it really is about finding that proper balance. And it's not as difficult as people think it is. It's really not. And I don't have 8 kids. Now, yes, go back to my great grandmother's days where there were 8 or 9 children. Sure. I mean, then that's definitely her full-time job. And it's also hers and probably the oldest sibling's full-time job. But now I have 1 child. We have so much time in the day that we can really build and grow
Yes.
with.
I like that you bring up that you have your business and you are enriching yourself and you do it for you, because if you are successful and fulfilled and have your own dreams, you're going to be a better mom and
Mhm.
a better partner.
Absolutely. And not only that, I'm going to show my son, I'm going to be a good influence for my son and show him that, he can work just as hard as me, if not harder. It's about being a proper influence because these little ones are watching you. They really are. If they see me at home sipping wine all the time, it's like, I don't want my son to do that. Yes, do that, but also do this, and build, so yes, absolutely. That's definitely the goal.
I love that too, because the children, the boys, they got to see strong women, successful women, and know how to treat women. It starts when they're a little kid. It doesn't start when you're like, oh, I can date now. It starts earlier than that. So very beautiful. And my very last question for you is, what makes you feel alive?
I think what makes me feel alive is really being allowed to express myself, learn and grow within myself, and just sharing that with my community. And honestly, helping others uplift themselves too, So it's just about really using your voice to help others, and in return, you really help yourself. So that's where I'm at now.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Christy.